Alrighty, some loyalty-free jingles as we get going here. A lot to get to tonight, Jimmy. So much happening uh, on sides of pop culture. We have another big lawsuit, another big I guess you could say it's like a Hollywood story. Yet another sex assault scandal that just came out on Friday night involving Vince McMahon. There's more stuff about him now. We have South Dakota, more or less, once again going after the interests of their own residents. We have Destiny, who's completely cooked his own goose. We have so much shit going on this week, Jimmy. It just seems like it never ends.
Yeah. And then you said there was some shit going on with Bill Burr.
Oh yeah, Bill Burr. Yes, yes. Okay, so I guess I'll just. This is kind of like a nothing story, but I guess we can talk about it.
Okay.
Have you ever heard the internet lore that Bill Burr and Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins could possibly be brothers?
I have heard that, yes.
Okay, well, inherently there must be some truth to it all because Howie Mandel he had Bill Burr on the podcast, and he brought Billy Corgan into the room, and Bill Burr immediately yells at Billy Corgan, like immediately he yells at Billy Corgan. Hold on here. I'll pull it up for you. We can play a little bit of this. It's just a podcast.
Yeah.
It's not on NBC or anything.
But for context, you were saying that Bill Burr was kind of acting like a douche was the way.
Yeah. So for context, we're not going to watch the entire clip, but for context, I feel that there might be some truth to this, simply because we're seeing a different side of Bill Burr now. We're seeing Hollywood Bill. We're seeing this pretentious jackass who's constantly angry. He's always combative. He always thinks that someone's trying to, purposely get under his skin or whatever. We've discussed this before. Bill Burr is just not the guy that he used to be.
No.
And I think that's enough context that's needed here for this clip. As I said before, Howie Mandel, we all know him from Deal or No Deal. He's a playful guy. He brings Billy on. He thinks it's going to be a great thing.
You're an asshole.
Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
I'm an asshole?
Yeah,
I thought this would be great to bring a family together.
Wow.
He told me you were totally cool with me coming.
That's what he does. That's what he does.
I thought it would be
so
a
then,
good
like,
surprise.
can this be like edited out?
Okay, so
Or
look.
no?
Wow. Holy fuck.
Right. So side by side, yes, they are absolutely brothers. There's no getting around this.
Yeah, I definitely can. I remember when me and my buddies used to say it as a joke, but as we got older and we kind of looked at pictures of them side by side, it was just like, I don't know. But now they're next to
That
each
was
other.
always the speculation, Jimmy, was that Bill Burr's father, or maybe Billy Corgan's father, I'm not sure which in this scenario. I don't know if it's the dad cheating on the mom, which I mean it probably was, is what I'm getting here. I don't think it's the mom stepping out on the dad. So Bill Burr's dad kind of got around, he stepped out on the wife a few times. In response, he had a second child, also named William, who is somehow also very famous. So, it just doesn't seem like Burr is very interested in this. It's a touchy subject for him. But he's also, almost 60 years old. And you would think that maybe meeting a relative would be fun at his age.
Well, to be fair, I remember on the H3 podcast when he did like his interview there, he has like stated that there are certain like topics he wouldn't want to talk about in the air that he would want to talk about in private. However, if this guy really is your brother, I don't know if you want to lead off with "you're an asshole" like that. And it's not even like a joking "you're an asshole." It's pretty passive aggressive.
Well, I think the asshole comment, I don't think it was towards Billy Corgan. I
Was
think
it towards Howie?
Yes. Burr is pissed at Howie for bringing the other Billy in here.
Okay.
But anyway, we're not going to watch the whole clip. I just wanted to just get into this because he gets really angry.
Well, yeah,
I can go. I mean, you told me Bill was.
All right, fuck it. No, I'll do it. Like, did you ever think the fact that I never told that story that, maybe you shouldn't? Did you ever, me fucking like email?
Okay.
So
some crap that I got, like, I
sort
of like went away from that.
So let me just fill in. Let me just fill in.
Do we talk on a regular basis?
We've never met.
He's being an asshole. Billy was invited onto a show by Howie and his producers.
Well, no, here's the worst thing. This guy on the right isn't allowed to ask or even question if Bill Burr is his brother because people might email Bill or might message Bill. Like that's what I'm getting from this.
Well,
that's like if I thought,
right.
that's like if I found out you were like potentially could be my half brother, and I asked some people questions. You send me a message going like, "Listen here, man. Someone might send me a letter in the mail speculating."
Well, Jimmy, if we were half brothers, it would make sense because we're both half retarded. So, it didn't make a full retard. It just made two halves.
You get what I'm saying, though. He's basically saying,
I get what you mean. Look,
Billy
Corgan, he's trying to be a nice guy. He's trying to just sit down and have a conversation with the other Bill. And look, I understand. Like we said, like I just said before, there could be childhood trauma with this.
Well, there
could be him just trying to conserve his father's reputation with this. There could be siblings who also have theories. There could be more half siblings out there. Look, when a family is broken apart and children begin to recognize the infidelity in their parents, I imagine that can be devastating for a kid.
Well, yeah, I get that, but what this interview reminds me of is when Sarah Silverman interviewed Bill Burr, except Bill Burr is acting like Sarah Silverman. He's treating Billy Corgan. He's treating Billy Corgan like the way that Sarah Silverman was treating
the way that Eliza Schlesinger acted on JRE.
Yeah, That's so. Let's let this play out a little longer.
So Billy Corgan was nice enough on my podcast to talk about the fact that he told a story that he had never told before, that his father traveled.
My stepmother said to me, "Do you know who Bill Burr is? Bill Burr might be one of the children that your father sired in his days on being a traveling musician."
Oh no!
Okay, so now we have the context that it was Billy's Corgan's
admission.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, I think he's saying from the story that it was his father that
right
got around
okay, maybe I'm overstepping here, but how narcissistically Hollywood of Burr to say, well, just because I've never brought up the story, what makes you think you should bring it up?
Yeah, it's like I said earlier.
That's not your life.
Yeah. And, and the other thing is, it's just like you're worried about people emailing you and messaging you. You can't just ignore the emails. You can't just block them. You can't just, is it really that hard?
And also, haven't people been emailing you and messaging you for 30 years?
This is suddenly the breaking point.
Have you not been ruffling feathers for quite a long time, Mr.
I remember when he sold out. I remember when he was in Boston and he just heckled the fuck out of the crowd out there. You can handle people, Bill. I've seen it. But suddenly this is the thing that breaks you? Come on.
Well, we're going to skip a little bit here because just as you think that it's going to get any better, Bill Burr doubles down.
Oh, of course.
He said, "What story?" So I told him privately that story.
Mhm.
He said, "Oh, you got to say this on the air."
Yeah, but he always does that. Because that's the thing. He's bringing in here not because he's trying to heal the bullshit that we went through growing up. He's getting here just for the fucking ratings. I mean, the guy literally accepted a fucking award in the middle of a podcast. I'm supposed to be promoting my special, and he's over here like...
You can do it. March 14th on
Okay.
Can help now.
To be
I
fair,
still love you, though.
to be fair, I would be a little salty too if I'm there. You know, one of the reasons why I'm on an appearance is to do some promotions, and this guy gets an award in the middle of a show.
Yeah,
Like,
but I mean that is really funny. But here's the thing, though, Jimmy, you're not exactly. You know, you are so new to this that if you had a half hour you were putting together, and then Howie Mandel just accepts an award, he's like, "Okay, you fucking no-namer," and he treats you like that. That's one thing.
well, no, I wouldn't get mad like Bill Burr would.
I don't think, my point is, Jimmy, is that Burr's not being hurt by this. You know what I mean? Like, he's not being hurt by an award being accepted on a podcast.
No, I don't think it's the award. I think it's just he was there. Like, one of the reasons he was there was to plug shit. And meanwhile, no, I wouldn't be mad about that.
Well, I guess what's really funny though is the meme of all of this, because you have a guy who's very short-tempered. He is famously short-tempered.
Oh yeah,
And you just have Billy Corgan walk in as a fucking meme during the show. I mean, I can see.
yeah.
Even though you did
But
this.
it's not about
Okay,
me.
so now what was supposed to happen? Are we going to go play catch? We're both in our 50s.
My arm is still good. I gotta go. I gotta say.
My arm's still good. Holy fuck.
They said, "Oh, we're gonna go play catch. We're in our 50s."
So you gonna pat me on the shoulder and say "good catch, sport"?
Holy shit! But we're brothers. Who gives a fuck that we're brothers? Holy shit!
Fuck.
Oh, that was too good. Oh, Bill Burr never changed. But anyway, so that was all I wanted to look into. That is that Burr had very little to say to Billy Corgan. He doesn't seem mad at him. I hope they, get some dinner together and have fun.
I feel like off air he'll probably catch up with him and probably apologize to him because, like I said, I remember when Bill Burr did the Ethan Klein shit on that podcast, and Ethan kept on trying to push Bill about some personal stuff, and Bill effectively just had to like lay it down. He was just like, the law. So that's not the first time I've seen him be confrontational, but it's just like, why be mad at Billy Corgan if Howie's the one who orchestrated all that?
Well, I don't think he was mad at Billy Corgan at all. I
Called him an asshole.
No, I thought he called Howie an asshole.
I'm pretty sure he didn't look at Howie and called him an asshole. He looked at Corgan
Yeah,
and
I
called
guess
him an
he
asshole.
was just mad. He's like, "Well, you're an asshole. Why are you here? How rough."
So
Oh,
speaking of rough subjects, what is South Dakota residents are getting fucked again?
Oh yeah. So I have a lot to get into here.
Yes.
So okay. So in 2020, remember we all remember this. There was a constitutional amendment that would have passed recreational and medical marijuana in the state. It would have made plenty of money. It wouldn't have caused any harm to anybody. They bureaucratically toss it out. And remember, it happened almost in Nebraska, but medical marijuana was saved in this vote. Much for the same reason that it's happening in South Dakota this time around, and it's because the way the bill was worded, they're able to kind of curtsy around it. Well, now this Republican state representative,
Yes.
this guy who, by the way, he's not a boomer. I looked into this Travis Ismay,
How
I
old is
believe
he?
is his name. He's not an old guy. I'm looking at a picture of him right now. He can't be that fucking old.
Maybe like I haven't seen a picture, but maybe like 40.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's like a big cowboy kind of guy, and more or less. But this is the thing, though. I don't really think that. At this point, I don't really think that cannabis is necessarily fully a political strive. I think it's more of an outdated mindset. And Ismay, he called medical marijuana a travesty, that state voters had crammed down their throat, and that's how they voted. Like, no, dude, this has been going on since 2020. Okay, this isn't just something that has suddenly came upon everybody and that they feel peer pressure into having. This has been a conversation that has been going on. Now, really since about 2010. And this program, by the way, okay, 8 dispensaries closed in 2024 because of low patient counts in South Dakota. There's only 11,000 approved patients. Okay, there were supposed to be, there were 13,705 patients. And some were declined. Some lost their capabilities for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And it's this sort of thing, and it's mainly because of Governor Kristi Noem and her outdated thinking. But somehow this idea, okay, that marijuana is going to cause crime, that marijuana is somehow going to cause all of these issues, and that somehow the murder rate's going to go up, and etc. That has not taken place in virtually any state, and I find it adorable that these lawmakers, whether or not you're a cowboy or not, look, I love cowboy culture. I have nothing wrong with them. I honestly feel that he's standing for something. He's a big family-centered guy. He feels like this will kind of throw off the family dynamic. I personally disagree. I feel that we have evidence that shows otherwise, quite frankly. But my biggest criticism, Jim, and I feel like you can co-sign on this too, are we suddenly just now thinking about what's going to make South Dakota safer, as if Rapid City isn't the biggest shithole on the planet? And suddenly now we're worrying about, a couple of joints is going to make Rapid City any less deplorable. Give me a fuck.
Yeah, it's... The last time I was up there, I saw at least like 5 people on the edge of like the road doing the whole panhandling thing. But, smoking the weed might be a problem, not, stuff like homelessness, crime.
Not the fact that fucking, MS-13 is in Rapid City.
Yeah.
Not the fact that 10 years ago, when you and I met each other, Rapid City, if you remember, okay, and this is not that long. I'm talking like 2016, 2017. Rapid City was a clean city. It was clean. It was nice. It wasn't a tourist destination necessarily, but it was just another place that people lived and worked and what have you. And over the last 10 years or so, it has become the absolute pits.
I know for a while they were like campaigning. I remember me and Richard were driving up there once. I forgot what year it was, but there was a point where they had a sign that said "Meth, we're on it."
Yes, yeah, because Kristi Noem. Yeah, and I feel like we never discussed that. We didn't have a show back then. If we had a show back then, we would have been all.
Well, trust me, Richard. Me and Richard made a million jokes on the way back because just like that's not.
No. That was a huge swing and miss.
Absolutely. It's like we know you're on meth. That's why you're trying to campaign to fix it.
Well, the whole campaign, okay. And as I spoke to some South Dakotans about this when it happened, and I've spoken to residents since then, and what have you. North Dakota seems like. In my search, I know this is like the fourth wall being broken for a second. in my search to return to the Midwest, I would say that North Dakota is the more attractive Dakota. Just putting that out there. Not saying I would choose it, but it just is. Anyway, that conversation is not to be had right now. But the truth of it is, though, is that North Dakota listens to its people. They don't want recreational, fine. But you know what? They didn't shut down during COVID. They vote mainly Republican politics. They vote for families and anti-abortion bills and everything. And they have a very sophisticated cannabis program. That's why I say this is not about politics, Jimmy. I really do believe this is about education. This is about groupthink. This is about the stereotypical. I guess it's not. What?
I think it's from the lens of like culture as well, like that there's something. For the people who are more family centric, and I got it's like you said, I got no problem with people being family centric, but if you think like weed is like gonna cause like the downfall of the family, I would heavily disagree with that.
I want to know, do you think it would surprise people when they find out, okay, that guys that don't even really drink all that much, that have college degrees, that have wives, kids, homes, they're smoking.
Yeah.
They are smoking more than they're drinking.
Yeah.
I can promise you, the mechanic that's working on your car, he's going home and he's smoking. Okay? The guy that's painting your house, the guy that's unclogging your toilet, these aren't people that are working at McDonald's and throwing their lives away. I'm talking about people who are like returning something to society. They would much rather smoke than drink. It is infinitely the better option. For a lot of people, they would rather not be so pharmaceutically dependent. And for others, it's just, it could become a source of income for people. I'm not talking about, street sales, but, you can go and at the bare minimum, do what I do and, and make minimum wage and work at a store, or there's people there's growers that are making $100,000 a year, so you have a lot of chance to have enterprise. You have a lot of chance to have industry. You have a lot of chance to make a lot of tax money, which, these rural states need more than anything, which is why I definitely do believe Nebraska is next. But what do you think it really comes down to, Jimmy? Do you think it comes down to culture? Do you think it comes down to a pseudo morality, or do you think that it really comes down to maybe in a political sense? Well, that's the things that the liberals do, and we don't want to be San Francisco, we don't want to be Portland, so we're going to keep the weed out of here.
I think it's definitely more of a cultural and moral thing. I mean, you could make the argument for political, but I think that would be a silly hill to die on, because if you're going to presume that everybody who's right-leaning, every single one of them doesn't smoke weed, if there's at least one, it kind of dismantles your whole argument. So you can't really die on that political hill.
Right, especially when Joe Rogan won the, he influenced the election. We can't be making the argument that cannabis is right. Yeah, right.
So I think cultural and to a degree moral, but even then the morality thing can't really work, because it's just like alcohol's legal once you get to drinking age, and that shit's pretty destructive,
Right.
So I at that point it comes down to culture, because you can't really stand on the whole morality thing. People, if we allow people to choose to smoke cigarettes, choose to buy alcohol, make all these choices, you have to make the same concession for weed, because the second someone argues the evilness of weed, it's like, well, you can argue the evils of. I was raised by an alcoholic. If we want to really if we really want to swing the fucking bat, I mean, that's a foolish game. So culturally is all that we can do. But as you mentioned earlier, there is statistical.
Your hands kind of muffling your speech there, bud.
there's statistical proof that weed isn't really damaging the culture.
No,
It's
and I don't think
having
it's really affecting the families that much
No,
either.
it's not.
The other thing is, and this might be a little more individualistic here, but I'm in a Catholic Facebook groups, and I follow Christian creators and what have you, and a lot of these guys, especially Catholics, Michael Knowles is a notable one, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, one of the most notable conservative Jews. These guys are all smoking cigars routinely. And I wonder about that. Where does the religious conservative mindset from a little bit of scotch and a cigar, where does that get lost in translation when you replace the cigar with a little bit of weed?
Well, you see, the cigar and the scotch culturally is acceptable, even if both of those things, even in moderation, isn't good for you. Whereas weed culturally has always been viewed as the guys that say, "I'm fighting the establishment, man."
Right. Okay. I work with those people.
I know.
That's
in a cringy sort of sense, it's basically we've taken what we've seen in the movies and we've really applied it to real life, even though everything in the movies isn't really accurate.
Right. Well, and also too, that thing becomes what you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like for example, do you think that there are still people that think that like Dazed and Confused and that kind of thing is still the MO with weed?
No, I don't think it's the MO anymore. I've met enough people that aren't not everyone who does it is just going like, "What's going on, man?" Some people are,
yeah,
they're like, for some people that locks them in, and that gets for some people, a bowl in the morning is like a cup of coffee for them. That's the thing that
it
gets
relaxes
the gears going.
It loosens their muscles. It gives them a sense of it gives them like a sense of there's a little bit of euphoria there. Maybe it kind of just brings you down. It kind of grounds you. It kind of gives you this sense of I don't know how I can put it, but I don't want to necessarily say tranquility. I kind of feel like that's a bit pretentious. But it definitely,
you could say tranquility. I mean, there are people
who sense of calmness. I think that's a good way to put it.
I think tranquility is fine too. There are people who, after a long day at work, like you said, there are some people that can have a little bit of scotch, and for them, that brings them tranquility. I mean, I think the thing we have to accept is that culturally doesn't have to be, it doesn't always have to be left or right. And I'm not even talking about just in a political sense, in a social sense. People should be allowed to make choices. If you want to, for the blue collared guy, if you cracking open a beer and like kicking it back on the recliner is your way of unwinding after a long day, more power to you. And if the guy who's IT or whatever after a long day finds himself unwinding by smoking a bowl and just hanging out, that should be we all find things that bring us, if not peace, at least something that makes life a little more.
The other thing that I have heard too, the argument that I've heard articulated, is that alcohol is a social lubricant, and cannabis is more of a self-isolating sort of enhancer. And in ways I agree, in ways I disagree.
I have to disagree. When my mom would drink heavily, she would become very isolated when withdrawn to this presumption that everybody who's an alcoholic is like in the bars and frolicking and partying. No, I'm sorry. I understand it to a degree, but it's foolish to think that that's the norm. No, and I really have to.
I don't know if they're co-signing on alcoholism. I think they just mean in general that when you drink, you're around.
Yeah, but you see, I'm not saying they're co-signing on it, but alcohol is more of an acceptable thing, and
Oh yeah, right.
like
Yeah,
that's what I'm
yeah.
getting at. It's just like when you show me the statistic that weed kills more people than alcohol, you won't find it. By the way, it's
No.
not there. It's not.
And,
I
yeah,
know
and,
it's not.
yeah. And my question is too, what is wrong with a little bit of self-isolation? I almost think that was what I was trying to explain in the euphoric sense of things, especially with indicas, depending on what terpene profile you're looking for.
There's nothing wrong with isolation. Look, I accept that we're social creatures, and I've mentioned this before. You should socialize, but for me, sometimes with the amount of people I socialize with, I need some time to where I'm like Sundays, for example, like today, like days like today in the morning, I usually just, if I need to grab anything from Walmart, I'll make my trip there, and then I'll just hang out, do laundry, and I will just stick to myself,
Oh yeah, on days off, especially during the week, a lot of times I love not leaving. I love not leaving. I just really like being home, and I have to imagine, not when you have babies, of course, because when you have infant babies, everything is about them.
Oh yeah.
But I'm saying when you have, kids that are old enough to occupy themselves, school age kids.
Yeah.
When you come home, I don't see what is wrong with someone. Maybe they vape because it's less messy, it's less smelly, but I don't see what is wrong with someone coming home from work. And that's how they relax. And now, if you are so high out of your mind that you can't take care of your children, well, that would just be like, okay, well, you came home and you got plastered drunk. You didn't have just that, few sips of scotch. You had several rounds, and now you can't take care of yourself. There's added elements here. Yeah. But I think you were hitting something on the head, and I did not mean to cut you off earlier. Yeah. When you were saying stereotypes in movies, I think a lot of people are thinking about, what was that guy's name from Trailer Park Boys, J-Rock or whatever. And he was like the typical burnout, that sort of character. I think a lot of people look at it that way. And you have senators like in Idaho. Okay, Idaho was looking to put medical marijuana on the ballot. And this guy's going, oh, well, there's no state that is a better place now that cannabis is on the market. There's no state that's a better place. Yeah. Well, who said it was going to be good or like who said anything about that?
Yeah,
it's not adding to the depravity.
Yeah, and so I think primarily, and whether this individual wants to admit it or not, when you break down everything in aggregate, it has to come back to culture. You can't hang on the political. You can't hang on the moral. It has to be cultural. And if you want to play the game of cultural, and sometimes it doesn't matter how dependent you are on people. You have to a degree be individualistic. And if you don't want your family, your kids and whatnot smoking weed or touching it, that's fine. But you're basically doing a group punishment. You've decided that everybody has to fall in line with this rather than letting people
and that's
make the choices for themselves.
Right. And that's what irritates me about the Republicans, because, the whole jive is always small government. The Democrats are overreaching. Everything is being regulated, which, by the way, I do believe in regulation, and there's a good reason for it. But we're so quick, Trump especially, not to get into him tonight, but he's so quick to undo all these different things. And yet somehow or another, they don't see people voting for cannabis as something, they don't see that as a freedom they should be rewarded. Okay, they see overturning this bill in a completely different way than how they're complaining of what the state of California does to their residents or wherever.
I guess I'll also put it like this. I've used this analogy before. You have the radical leftists that will prop up dragons to slay because they want to feel like they're a good guy. I can say the same thing for anti-cannabis Republican senators. You make it seem like because of stereotypes within movies and other boogeymen, you prop up this dragon to slay because you want to feel mighty and virtuous and stuff like that. It's just like that's not how virtue works.
I also find it really funny that they don't get how cannabis works either. Do you remember? It was a beautiful picture, Jimmy, of I think it was of Mitch McConnell with the golden shears, and he had chopped down the weed, and then come to find out, like, all the weed that he chopped down, like, it hadn't matured enough to be smokable, but it was all like CBD grade hemp. It was completely legal federally in the phase that it was in, and they were just so stupid that they cut male plants. A male plant isn't going to produce anything that's federally questionable.
Yeah, it's people, and that's not even just like a Republican thing. That's just like, as I call it, old head logic. It's like you got these like, for example, you got these people. You got these people. Oh, fucking that motherfucker. You have, like, for example, I'm in this 80s group, and every now and again I will see this post. Ironically, someone will be like, back in my day we didn't have social media, and I'm quick to comment, you're announcing on social media that back in your day you didn't have social media. You're griping on social media about the things with social media. It's just like, how do you not? And then they're like, well, there are the dangers of social media. I was like, man, there were things that were dangerous in your day that you just. But, I can imagine there were things that people who grew up through the 80s might have deemed dangerous, and then people who grew up in the 50s or the 60s might have been like, well, it's not so bad, or just, it's.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay, for an example, social media might be the best and worst thing for older folks. It lets them be in touch with people that they otherwise would have no way to keep in contact with. It allows them to, talk to their grandkids, and if their grandkids haven't unfriended them for voting for Trump. And it allows them to, it kind of gives them this fun little world, so they don't necessarily feel alone in the nursing home or wherever it is that they live. But it's also one of the worst things you can have, because they believe everything. All of these AI videos and photos are always of the belief of old people. Any of the things they say of, if you go out to your car and you see a green sticky note under your windshield, it means a human trafficker is nearby. Just shit that's not even like feasibly believable. And old people will share it.
And then the other thing is you have people screaming, going like, it'll make social media has made people less social. And it's just like, it's going to make some people less social. Not everybody who uses social media is less social.
And I'm saying this as someone who is a Christian. Okay. The whole, one like, one prayer. I'm so happy that died, because it does nothing. It's just you. Maybe if you posted a prayer, okay, maybe if you made a religious status and we were liking it because it was bringing something to our day. But what are we praying for? Like, it's a picture of a kid who's like clearly not even real, and he's all fucking mangled up, and it says, one like, one prayer. For what?
Well, Johnny, the people from the 80s would just tell you you're not really a devout Christian for not liking that.
No, honestly, Jimmy, I'm being honest, okay? If you want to say a prayer to yourself, if you want to incorporate this mangled up kid who may or may not be an AI image in your thoughts and prayers, that's great. But what I don't need to see is my 80-year-old aunt sharing, that poor baby. Can someone find me the name of that young?
Find it a name.
I mean, it's crazy. Because they believe everything that they see.
Can you find it a name?
Well, something that can be, I guess something, a way to segue.
Yes, yes.
Morals don't always equal politics, just like they don't always equal religious beliefs, or they don't always equal the public face that you put on. And certainly
I know.
that can
I
be
know.
said
I know.
for Mr. Destiny. He had to be the first guy to the party. Every conversation, he had to be the one that was the most feministic, that was the most. Is there a word for someone who isn't racist? Because he's that thing. He's the most anti-racist in the room. He's the most.
He's You see, he's a virtuous SJW. He's not your ordinary SJW. He embodies all the good things. He's everything you want to be.
Didn't he create the term virtuism? Like, wasn't that his whole thing?
He
a virtuist.
He tries to act like he created it, but there were people who many eons ago who were actually virtuous, who created the term because they actually embodied proper virtue, not
He may have brought it back, into the word box.
Well,
but he certainly didn't.
Well, it turns out that it was just it was all a stage play. It was all performative.
All performative. As a matter of fact, I think him and Trump should be friends now.
Well, you see, according to he'll make the argument that he can't even make the consent argument. So you know what? Him and Trump might actually want to sit down and have a chat.
So I will give you the floor because I'm still confused. So what exactly has our pal Desi done here?
So I have to watch his response. I guess he's responded to all of the things. I have yet to watch it. I'm probably going to watch it tomorrow. I've been trying to finish the Kurt Metzger JRE episode, and that's infinitely more interesting than fucking
Kurt Metzger is an interesting fella.
I love Kurt Metzger. But for those who haven't heard about this, Destiny had some explicit pictures and videos of him with various partners be leaked around without people's consent. Some people who did sexual things with him that had it recorded didn't consent to it, and all of this was done to appease an OnlyFans whore. There's a gal named Pixie who was effectively a close friend of Destiny. Bad enough to where her own father said to Destiny that he was a good friend to her. Had basically took advantage of her because, he's saying, it's the whole song and dance routine male feminists do.
Right.
I'm going to pretend to be your ally because I just want to fuck you. It's the same song and dance routine. Well, she finds out this stuff gets leaked, and effectively it makes her pretty suicidal. And there's a YouTuber out there named President Sunday who thinks that having your nudes leaked, videos of you doing sexual shit leak would make you suicidal. It's like, no, that actually would. To imply that would make you suicidal, and that's a ploy. And you know what? I don't care if this is.
Well, I guess it's because he's trying to say, in the pornographic culture that we live in, that something as innocuous as being naked and performing a sex act should not affect you.
The part
which is crazy.
The problem is that President Sunday is neglecting is that it's not the act itself that I have a problem with. It's you leak that shit without someone's consent. Like that just.
I don't want to get you sick. I feel bad.
What is that? Give me 1 second, Jimmy. What is that?
You're not vaccinated. I don't want to get you sick. It can kill you.
What do you mean I'm vaccinated? What are you talking about?
You don't have your flu shot, John.
Well, honey, just stay here. Just stay in the bedroom.
Mom must have picked me up.
Okay. Well, I'm okay.
These are the pick me up.
Okay. We'll talk
If
after
you
this.
get sick, let me know.
Okay. Sorry about that. My wife is she's got something going on. My bad, Jim.
No,
Um,
fault.
But no, I get what you mean. Is that so? The fact that okay, I don't think we're being very clear as to what's happening here. So let's establish this.
I was
Destiny was he was hooking up with what I'm guessing like OnlyFans girls.
He was sharing in various Discord servers nude pictures and nude photos, videos and shit like that with people to impress an OnlyFans whore, and it all got leaked. They're claiming that a hacker did it, but I don't think a hacker did it. There's no evidence to indicate that a hacker did. I think Destiny recklessly was sharing this shit, and videos
that he made with women and what have you.
Yeah, well, it's not guys too. It's not just women, dudes as well. So, and my guess is someone he probably slighted because he's a very pleasant person. No one would ever want to go after him. Probably decided to take it to Kiwi Farms, which is about the worst place for that to go because the second it goes to Kiwi, people think Reddit and 4chan is bad. I would say that Kiwi Farms is worse. If it gets to Kiwi Farms, you're done.
Well, here's the thing. Kiwi Farms, okay, let's take a look. Let's just be very honest about the graveyard that Kiwi Farms is responsible for, okay? Stuttering John,
every lol cow on YouTube to ever exist, they have dockets of them.
Aaron M. Holt, or
DSP, Boogie, Wings of Redemption, Low Tier God, Cyrax, name them all. They're all there.
They're all on Kiwi Farms.
Yeah.
So once that hits, once the people at Kiwi Farms, once those kind folks begin to swirl around in the rumor reel, you're done.
Well, yeah, because unlike Reddit and 4chan, people in Kiwi Farms actually investigate stuff. They actually check if evidence is thorough. And if something isn't thorough, they'll speculate. Like Kiwi Farms, that's why I say it's worse than Reddit and 4chan. Because on Reddit and 4chan, I can accept that things aren't always true on there. But with Kiwi Farms, 9 out of 10 times, if something leaks on there, there's a good chance that it's legit. And everything that I've heard has been pretty solid. So this Pixie gal is, I think, considering a lawsuit, which she absolutely should, just because of the negligence and everything here. I haven't watched Destiny's response to it, but I can imagine he's gonna try and my guess is, and this is all speculation and alleged, I don't know what he says, but my guess based off of watching his content for years is that he's going to try and play it off that this shit getting leaked isn't an uncommon thing, and it happens more often than you think, and Republicans are doing it too. I have an idea of how this is going to be
Of course. It's the most the people that tend to be the most left or the most right, the people that tend to be the most artificially principled are the ones that end up being the biggest scuzzballs. And you're right, Destiny always has something to say about everything. The biggest thing that I have noticed, whether it be Piers Morgan, whether it be some of the other podcasts he's popped up on, his big Lolcal Live is a good example, or any of the things he's done with Keemstar. Everything always comes down to how fast can I deflect and how thoroughly can I double down on my deflection.
Well, that and when he understands a topic, he's able to articulate it well. But if he doesn't understand a topic, or if he's taken a stance that's really bad, he'll pull the Ben Shapiro and he'll just
I'll be right back. You keep going.
Okay. Effectively, he'll pull the Ben Shapiro and he'll just speak really fast. The idea is you speak fast to dominate a conversation. You get as many points in as humanly possible. So I either have to rebuke the more effective, the more important points, because you could throw in some big points and then have some basically nothing materials, all fluff. And, you know, I haven't, like I said, all of this is just my speculation and what I allege. Nothing is confirmed. But if I were to take a guess based on how he does this, he's going to talk about I can imagine he'll treat the stuff with Pixie seriously, but everything else, I can imagine it's going to be, because people in his audience have already played defense for him. I can imagine this will somehow get swept under. I don't want to say swept under the rug, but I feel like he's gonna try and normalize it, and then he's gonna say, well, guys on the right do it too. And it's just like, I'm sorry, you can't, as a person who acts morally virtuous, sits on your high horse, tell people how to live their lives. I don't, and I said this the last show, I think. If it wasn't the last show, it was the show before that. I don't know how you have a career after this. I don't see how it's possible. I don't see how you I just don't see how you walk away from this. I don't see, it just doesn't seem possible. Like,
no. And not someone of his stature. Okay. Not someone of his stature, not someone of his persuasion, not someone who has generated the audience that he has. And I'm going to be willing to assume, like a Brian Tyler Cohen or someone like that, they're going to have a very different democratic audience. They're probably going to have more of the middle-aged folks. Destiny has a lot of women watching him. A lot of women watching him. He has a lot of college-age girls watching him. It's just a fact. That is the audience that he is, like the reverse Andrew Tate. The audience that he has cultivated is, I'm going to be the biggest cuck on camera so that I could potentially sleep with you and film it and then show that tape to all the other girls that I've also cucked on camera. I mean, it's just the most snakish behavior. And we see it repeatedly, time and time again. The loudest ones in the room, the ones that have to sit on this fucking high tower in every conversation, are typically the people that you need to keep the biggest eye on.
Yeah, I have also said the people who are typically screaming who the evil people are with little, like, not even just claiming they are just cuz, are generally pretty evil and scummy people themselves. And this man has proven that, well, he is that. And, you know, it's, you know, I bust the guy's balls. I've said that when it came to, like, the Kyle Rittenhouse shit, that I agreed with him. But here it's just like, you know, it seems to be the song and dance routine of the male feminist. I've seen it once. I've seen it twice. I've seen it 1,000 times.
I've seen it personally in real life.
I can't talk about a certain thing on the air. I told you about, you know what I'm talking about. Yes, I've seen it too play out, and it's
and I have seen it on several occasions. Maybe not as extreme as some instances. And look, and I'm not saying, I want to make this very clear, okay? I am not anti-feminism myself. I am not saying to you that I don't believe that women should have all of the freedoms and opportunities that they have, and that it should be an equal playing field. It should be, mano y mano. Both of us have the degree. Both of us have the experience. Both of us can make the money. Okay, I would never argue that. But what I really dislike are these fucking guys that almost become like anti-male, like they almost become like they want to placate this hatred for themselves, and it's all just this dirty ploy to violate these women.
I also have to throw this out there. I don't have to be a male feminist to say treat women properly. I don't have to be a part of the Rainbow Mafia to, say treat people who aren't me with some decency and dignity. I don't have to be a part of these groups. I don't have to be X thing. I don't think being a part of those groups makes you automatically a good guy or virtuous. And when it comes to male feminists, that really seems to be, the case. If I claim to be, for example, if I say that I'm an LGBTQ plus member, meanwhile I'm screaming homophobic slurs, what am I going to do? Say that I'm a part of the mob, so therefore I'm safe? No, it doesn't work like that.
No, and I think a lot of this, unfortunately, it becomes an argument of the thing, like even the things that Destiny has said about the church and all of the false equivalencies that he has made, all the things he has said about Trump that have been ass pulls. I'm not saying that I'm a big fan of Trump. We've talked about him enough.
No, but
we'll probably get into Trump on Wednesday, so we're not going to do it tonight. But the point that I'm driving home with this fucking guy is that somewhere in his moral code, it would allow him to distribute pornography, to sex traffic, in a sense. That's what it is. He will go to jail. That's what this is.
And I also have to stress this guy. He can't go after conservatives or other people for being sexual deviants anymore when he's a sexual deviant. You can't do that. And that's the argument that I hear him generally make against conservatives. Like when he went through the whole slamming the church arc, I look back at that and I kind of cringe a bit because it's just like, on one hand, it's a point that I've heard be made millions of times over and over again. But now that all of this has come out, it's just like, you're going after the church for all the sexual deviant stuff that that you believe is going on, but yet you are doing, not to the same extent that they are, but you're doing it. You're doing it. It's an evil, like you're going about it's evil and it's evil.
And we've had this conversation before, okay? And not to get too deep into it, but the Catholic Consension pretty much is at this point. If there are suspicions about a priest, put him out. I would say in most churches, whatever denomination of Christianity that you may or may not be. I'm sure this is the same way in Judaism, in Islam, in any organized religion. If you find a predator, dismiss them. And the same goes for any other part of life. Yeah. But I do notice, this is the same thing that I've said before of how you really don't hear conservatives talking about Nazis, but liberals love talking about Nazis. Yeah, it's like the inverse. The people who are really creepy are always trying to come up with theories of why everybody else is the creep and why they should be wearing the white cap.
Oh, yeah, and also it's what I elaborated about earlier. You are propping up dragons to slay. You want to make yourself look noble, heroic, chivalrous, virtuous. You want to be that guy. But there's a difference between propping up a dragon to slay and having that metaphorical dragon appear before you. The first one is manufactured. You are setting up effectively a home run. You are making yourself look like the good guy. Whereas if you face off against a metaphorical dragon, the outcome isn't guaranteed, because a true battle of good versus evil, good isn't always guaranteed to prevail. And if historically good has been outnumbered and overwhelmed by evil, that's what makes the battle of good versus evil compelling. So it really bothers me when people practically just prop up these, manufacture these dragons to slay, and they're like, I'm virtuous. It's just like, you're not, though.
No, and it's almost okay. So this might be a little bit of different of a take, and to kind of get away from Destiny and just make this into a general topic of conversation.
Of course,
a lot of these pundits, they are only responding to things that they say, or things that are said about them, or things that are happening in the news. So there really isn't any controversy other than, oh, he made some comment that was unsensitive or whatever. And then they can go back and in whichever political affiliation that they have, they can then decide for themselves whether or not it's justifiable and what angle they want to go at it and et cetera. It's just an argument. It's just an opinion. It's just a point of reference to generate content.
It's kind of worse than that. It's not even attacking the argument. You're attacking the person.
Right.
Like,
but what Destiny cannot do this time.
He can't.
Right.
He doesn't. There is no escape hatch. He's kind of, when it comes to this particular topic, which he seems to bring up quite a bit, especially when it comes to Trump, he runs the risk of looking like a bigger hypocrite if he does that. And I've watched him for years. I have a feeling he's gonna do it. He can't help himself.
No, not at all. And I definitely believe that we will hear more about this as it develops. There's still a lot more to get to. Of course, you and I will both watch his response, and then either Tuesday or Wednesday, we will dig into that. But for now, Jimmy, I think this is where we will tie it off. We'll start doing some longer shows at some point. I know we're going to get Alan back. We'll probably get Richard back at some point. I'm going to try to get JD in here. But, as it's growing, we just keep trying to, figure out new stuff. And I think for tonight, we had a good one.
Yeah.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too.